All right, hi guys, and welcome to our asynchronous day. So for today, we have four problems. We're going to practice setting up equations using our special segments. So I have the notes open. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slide open and have my foldable open next to me to help me out. So it says on here, so what we're practicing today is looking at a diagram and discerning the important parts of the diagram that we can use to set up an equation. So what you're going to see in this unit is we are going to use a lot of, you'll see like a bunch of different expressions and equations, and you're going to have to figure out which parts are important to use in order to set up your equations. So that's what we're going to practice today. So if you notice, it says given the following, set up an equation to find x. Be sure to label the diagram, but do not solve. So we are not worried about you solving today. The only thing that we are worried about is how you set up your equations. Okay. So it says given segment AC is an angle bisector of triangle ABD. So if I know that segment AC is a triangle of if I know segment AC is an angle bisector of triangle ABD, I need to set up and solve my equation to find for x. So here is segment AC. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my foldable and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to see that an angle bisector bisects an angle. So I can do part equals part or part plus part equals whole. When I look at that picture, I notice that that angle is at the vertex of it. Okay, so when I go over here, I'm going to look at AC, and I'm going to identify that it's bisecting this angle here with the vertex at A. We've learned that when we bisect angles, it breaks our angles into two equal parts. So the way that I show congruent angles is with the loops. So I'm going to put a loop here, and I'm going to put a loop here. So given what we used and what we marked in our diagram, I want you to mark your diagram. And I want you to pause the video and write down your equation in this box here that says my equation. So it's important that you pause the video and write down your equation because we want to see what you guys set up. And then we'll go through and I'll show you what to set up. So go ahead and hit pause. Okay. So now hopefully you've written an equation down in the my equation box. So what I'm going to go through is I'm going to walk through the equation that we would set up. And then you can compare the two. So again, we said that the segment AC is an angle bisector. It bisects our angle and it splits it into two congruent parts. So the options that I can use is part equals part or part plus part equals whole. We have to figure out which parts of this picture relate to that angle bisector. So I see the loops and the angles right there, which means that the expression for this angle and this angle, okay? These are the only two parts that we can use of the diagram. These are the only two expressions that have the relationship. The rest of it is just extra information. If we were to find x, once we find it, we could sub it into those parts. But right now it's just extra information. So since those two pieces are congruent, and congruent means equal, when I'm going to set up my equation, I can do 5, excuse me guys, 5x plus 8 equals 3x plus 21. So go ahead and compare my equation to your equation, okay? If they're the same, awesome. If they're different, awesome. We don't want you to change your equation. We want you to submit so we could see what you were thinking. But give us like a little smiley face now, put something on your paper to let us know if you still understand it. Put a question mark if you're still confused. All right, so we're going to change it a little bit. The next one now is segment AC is an altitude. So if you notice, I have the same picture. It looks exactly the same. We did that intentionally. We're just changing what type of segment. So if I were to give you that same picture and tell you an altitude, it's going to change. So an altitude, when we look at it, it's a segment that starts at the vertex and is perpendicular to the opposite side. And you have to get that 90-degree angle in there. So here A is our vertex and it's perpendicular to the opposite side. So on that side length, I have to put in my 90-degree angle marking. So I know you guys are going to say, but that doesn't look perpendicular. I understand that. I know that it doesn't look perpendicular, but I'm telling you it's an altitude, which means that it is perpendicular, and you put in your 90-degree angle. I want you guys to now go ahead and fill in the my equation back. So based on what you saw, go ahead and fill in the my equation here. Hit pause while you think about it. Okay, so hopefully now you have your equation in the my equation box. So the important part, the key information is right here at this angle. This angle is equal to 90 degrees and it's represented by the expression of 5x minus 8. So if I just want to figure out what that x value is, what that number is that would make that equation come out to equal 90, my equation is going to be 5x minus 8 equals 90. So again, since that's in the mouth at that perpendicular segment at that 90-degree angle, those are the only two pieces that I can use. I don't need to use any other pieces of the diagram. Check your equation against the teacher equation. Again, please don't change it. If you got it wrong, it's okay. We want to see where the confusion is so that we can help you guys tomorrow. Give us a smiley face if you're good to go. Put a question mark if you're still confused. All right, we're on to the next one. So the next one now, I'm being told that segment AC is a median. So once again, we still have the same picture, and AC is a median. So AC, if it's a median, it starts at the vertex and it bisects the opposite side. So A is going to start at the vertex and it's going to bisect the opposite side. That means C is the midpoint. So when we bisect something, we put ticks in to show that those parts are congruent to each other. All right. So now that we've bisected the segment, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the segment that we've bisected. We've bisected this BD here, and we've cut that into those two equal parts. I'm going to blow it up, and I want you guys to figure out what your important information is in order to write your equation. So you're going to write your equation in the my equation box. You're going to hit pause so that you have a minute to think. And then I'll explain it to you when you're done. All right, guys, so now that you have your equation down in the my equation box, I'm going to show you the equation that we're going to set up. So when I look at the quantities, the important quantities, I have this part here, okay, that's your distance from C to D, and I have the whole here. So I'm given a part and I'm given a whole. I know this is a part because it only goes from the midpoint to the end point. And I know that this other part here is a whole because it goes from each end point of the segment. So when I look at my options, I can do part equals part, but I'm missing something here. So I can do part equals part, but there's nothing there. Okay, or it says I can do part plus part equals whole. So let's remember, when we have congruent segment, once we have congruent pieces, if these parts are congruent, this can also be x plus 14. Now that I have the two parts in the whole, I can use that part plus part equals whole relationship. So really all that I've done here is used my segment addition postulate, my part plus part equals whole. We learned those all the way back in August in Unit 1. But now that segment is just a part of a triangle. It's just a side of a triangle. And even though the segment is the side of a triangle, that doesn't mean that we can't use that segment addition postulate. It's still important. It's just in a new context, not necessarily anything new. All right, so go ahead and check the teacher equation against your equation. Go ahead and put a smiley face if you're good to go. Go ahead and put a question mark if you still have questions on it so that we can look at that and address that. Our last one, line EC is a perpendicular bisector. So we have to remember perpendicular bisector. This is a big one. There are two things that happen. We bisect a segment. That's the bisector part. So we're bisecting the segment BD, and we're breaking that into two equal parts. And then we're also creating that 90-degree angle. So it's not only did it bisect segment BD, it also created a 90-degree angle there as well. So again, I know it's not facing the exact way of a picture on our foldable, but I kind of have to tilt it a little bit. I have to see on my foldable where that segment is that it bisected and kind of play with it in my mind. I'll let that tilt in a minute. So for this one, you have to set up two equations, one to solve for x and one to solve for y. So when you hit pause, you're going to do, in your my equation box, you're going to do one equation for x and a second equation for y. We want to have two of them. And then we'll go over and we'll compare those, okay? So, as always, hit pause, all right? Because I'm not going to just have it be silent for everyone for a while. So hit pause for me. And then after you get your answer, check it against what I do. Hit play and check it against mine. All right, so before you guys go on and listen, make sure that you have one equation to find your x value and one equation to find your y value. So a perpendicular bisector, you've actually used these ideas already. We're just, again, it's in a new context. It's putting two of them together in one. So let's focus on the bisector part first. So when you bisect a segment, it breaks it into two equal parts, and you can use your part equals part or part plus part equals whole relationship. So when I look at my drawing here, I can see that that segment has been broken into two equal parts. The part from C to D is x plus 14. The part from C to B is 4x minus 7. So since there are two quantities, we know a quantity for each of those parts. Those are going to be our two congruent parts. When things are congruent, we set them equal. So my first equation to find x is 4x minus 7 equals x plus 14. So again, using this idea of perpendicular bisector, that's what it means to bisect. You use the bisector part. Now we have to use the perpendicular. So not only did it bisect that segment, but we said it was perpendicular to it as well. And that perpendicular, we're going to zoom in, is right here. That box tells me perpendicular, but remember that box also tells me 90 degrees. So if that box tells me 90 degrees, then that tells me that that equation, or that expression, 5x minus 8, is equal to 90. And so that's going to help me write my equation. So then what I want you to do and copy down in the teacher equation, 5y minus 8 equals 90, to show that that angle is equal to 90 degrees. Again, don't erase, don't change the my equation. Leave your equation what it was, even if it's incorrect, and just fill in the teacher equation box. All right, so once you've completed that, again, smiley face if you feel like you're good to go now after the explanation, question mark if you still have questions. So that was the last of the 4 examples that we had for today that we just wanted to review and refresh and get you guys thinking about on our asynchronous day. We are going to do more of this tomorrow and Friday in class. We're going to continue to practice it. So I'd like you guys to just be ready to do that. There is no homework tonight. if you did not do assignment number 1, that would be a good thing to do tonight to complete that and turn that in. In order to be marked present for today, you are going to submit these notes back to Canvas. So you're going to go ahead and submit the notes back to Canvas, and you would have like downloaded them as if they were an assignment. So you'll go back and submit it into that assignment. If you have questions about how to do that, just email us. All right, guys. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.